Should you prioritize a stocks and shares ISA or a pension? In this video, we're going to be looking at both types of accounts and seeing which one is better for your situation. I'm Ryan, this is Making Money Simple. Welcome back to another video. I personally have about £25,000 in a stocks and shares ISA and about £20,000 split between my workplace pension and my SIP, which is a private pension. So I actually have two pensions. So I use both types of accounts. I've used them both for years. We're going to talk through which one you should prioritize based on your own situation. The third type of account which you can use if you don't use a pension or an ISA is a general investment account. Now these generally have no tax advantages. So ideally you want to try and use either an ISA or a pension first and use up those specific allowances first of all, because general accounts have no tax advantages. Crypto, unfortunately, you can't hold directly in an ISA or a pension, so you have to use a general investment account for that. Back to ISAs and pensions, specifically stocks and shares ISAs and pensions, and let's just talk through the basics of them quickly. A stocks and shares ISA is a type of account which you contribute to net of tax. That means you earn some money from a job, you pay tax, and you then put the money into a stocks and shares ISA. The benefit is though, because we pay tax already at source, you never pay any tax again in the future. No capital gains tax, no dividend tax, and no bond interest tax. So there's no tax at all once it's in a stocks and shares ISA.
Hey, that's pretty good.
With a stocks and shares ISA, we get a £20,000 allowance per year. So it runs from April to April, and that's only on your contributions. So you get £20,000 contribution allowance each tax year. The third thing is they are flexible. If you want to withdraw money from a stocks and shares ISA today, tomorrow, in 10 years time, you can do with no penalty. They're a flexible type of account.
You like that?
Now let's talk about pensions. Pensions are almost completely different in every single category. So first of all, you contribute to a pension gross tax. So you don't pay tax now, you pay tax in the future. Pension contributions come out of your gross pay, so you actually avoid some income tax and some national insurance today. But of course, the government always tax us eventually, so they tax us in the future, because when we come to withdraw it, we can access 25% lump sum tax free, and then the rest is then taxable. Secondly, when it comes to the allowance, we actually get a £40,000 pension allowance, which once again runs across the tax year from April to April. So that's actually double the size of a stocks and shares ISA allowance, which is only 20k. With a pension, we get 40k. And with a pension, you can actually use the last 3 years worth of allowances if you wanted to. With a stocks and shares ISA allowance, once the 20k is gone, it's gone. They don't roll forward or carry back. With a pension, you can carry back 3 years worth of allowances. And a final thing we touched on, flexibility. Pensions are not flexible. You cannot access them until you're 55, and that's increasing to 57 in 2028. I'm only 24, I was gonna say 24, I'm 25 now, unfortunately. 30, 40 years time, that might rise to 60, 65, no one knows. And that's one key difference here. With a stocks and shares ISA, you're paying tax today and you know what tax you're paying. You then never pay tax again in the future. With a pension, you avoid tax today, but no one knows how much tax is going to be in the future, what pension rules and regulations are going to be in the future. It could be good for us, it could be bad for us. No one knows what the future pension rules are going to look like and when we can actually access the pension. And the three main things to look at between the two accounts is when you actually pay tax, your actual annual allowance, and also the flexibility, where they are completely different. One thing worth mentioning as well is a stocks and shares ISA is pretty standard. It's the same wherever you go. Pensions get a bit more complicated. You have workplace pensions where your employer will give you an employer match, and that is brilliant because that's completely free money. You also have self-invested personal pensions or private pensions, which is essentially a private pension that you open and you contribute into yourself. You don't get an employer match, but of course you can still get tax relief because once again the money goes into a pension out of your gross pay. And I know it then is even more complicated with NHS pensions, Nest pensions, teachers pensions. There's a lot of different types. Pension is a very broad account, and I do appreciate that. Personally speaking, from my experience, I have a workplace pension and a SIP, so I can speak on those and answer any questions you have. Let me know in the comments. The key thing here is though, they both offer some sort of tax advantages. Stocks and shares ISAs, we pay tax today and never pay tax again. Pensions, we avoid tax today, but then pay tax in the future, but they have some built-in tax advantages. As I mentioned, I have about 25k in a stocks and shares ISA and about 20k split across two pensions. Most of it's in my workplace pension with a bit in a SIP. So this brings us on to the main question of the video: which one should you prioritize? It's hard to give a blanket answer, a one-size-fits-all answer, but I'm gonna try and do that anyway.
Sometimes my genius is, it's almost frightening.
A stocks and shares ISA is brilliant because of the flexibility. You can live off of that money before retirement age. Hypothetically, if you can build up your stocks and shares ISA to £500,000 by the time you're 40, you can then live off of that £500,000 before you get to 55 or 57 or 60 or whatever the pension age is. And all of that money is tax-free and there's no penalties to withdraw the money. So it's your £500,000. You can live off the dividends, live off the gains. You can take it all out, whatever you want to do. With a pension though, once you invest into a pension, that money is essentially locked in until you're 55. So you have two different people here. One person is 18 and wants to retire at 35. Then an ISA is going to be better to prioritise because it's flexible and you can live off of it at 35. With a pension, just say you're 40, you've only just started investing, you're going to be investing, until pension age, then it could be better to use the pension, particularly if you're getting an employer match and particularly if you're a higher rate taxpayer. As your salary goes up to a higher rate taxpayer and an additional rate taxpayer, a pension becomes even more lucrative and attractive because you're getting 40% tax relief and 55% tax relief. I have a video on pensions which goes into how the tax relief works and how my own workplace pension is set up, which I'll link at the top, which goes into all that in more detail. I think with pensions, if you're going to be working until retirement age, if you're starting a bit later in life, or if you know that you're at a high rate or an additional rate taxpayer, it's a lot more attractive because you're getting huge amounts of tax relief, which essentially is more money in your pocket and then more money compounding over the long term.
Here comes the money, 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 money.
Generally though, in terms of more blanket statements, the things you need to think about are your goals. When do you want to retire? How much do you need to retire? When do you want to live off of your investments? If you want to live off of them at 35, an ISA is going to be better to prioritise. If you're not going to live off of them till you're 65, then the pension may be better to prioritise, especially if you're getting a workplace employer match contribution or you're getting tax relief at 40 or 45% because you're a higher or additional rate taxpayer. So it really comes back to your goals, your time frame, your actual salary, when you want to retire. There's a lot of things to consider, but it's important to obviously think about it now. And if you haven't thought about it before, this might prompt you to think about it because ultimately you want to contribute to the best type of account for yourself. So we've been through the basics of the two different types of accounts and we've been through a few scenarios of where you should prioritize. Now I'm going to finally touch on what I'm doing. Of course, as I mentioned, I have almost equal money in both ISAs and pensions. So why do I do that and what is my plan? My plan really is to try and live off of my investments before retirement age, and that is why I actually try to prioritize my stocks and shares ISA over my workplace pension and my SIP. I have automatic investments going into all those type of accounts, but if I have £100 left over at the end of the month, I will put into my stocks and shares ISA, and that is mainly because I value the flexibility. I want to try and build that pot up to as large as possible amount, so then hopefully when I'm say 40, 45, before retirement age, I can live off of that massive pot of money in my stocks and shares ISA. So then, why do I still have a workplace pension and a SIP? First of all, workplace pension, I get a 6% employer match. I'm literally getting free money from my employer just by putting in 6%. And what I would suggest is whatever your employer matches up to, match up to the same. Don't go any more if you don't want to, but match up to the same. If it's 4%, 8%, 20%, that's literally free money you're getting from your employer. It's 100% risk-free return on your money instantly, and you then have more money compounding for you over the long term. Secondly, a SIP. So me, I'm in a very specific situation where I'm making money simple, this side hustle, which is now his own company and which I earn an income from. And I can't really take money from that company because my marginal tax rate is quite high and it's not efficient to do so. So what I do with it is two things. One, I buy equipment like this new equipment I'm using. I've also recently upgraded to a new MacBook, which I'm actually going to be making a whole video soon on buying equipment for a company, whether you should expense it, capitalize it, use the super deduction. If all of that means nothing to you, don't worry, but that's going to be a video coming out soon. But other than buying equipment, which I then use in the company, the other ways to extract money from the company really is through setting up a SIP. And I've set up a Vanguard SIP where the company, Making Money Simple, pays into it every single month. There's no point taking a salary because my marginal tax rate is too high. I can take dividends, but after £2,000 worth of dividends, once again, the tax rate is too high, the marginal tax rate. So the third way to extract money from a company other than salary and dividends is through a pension, and that is why I take some money out of the Making Money Simple bank account and put it into my Vanguard SIP every single month. Doing it this way, and I have made a whole video on this as well, which I'll link somewhere at the top, I don't get an employer match contribution like my workplace pension, and I don't get a tax relief like I get in my workplace pension, but it's an allowable expense for my company, so it reduces my income tax I need to pay, and it gets money out of the company and into my hands. Although it's not in my hands till I can access it when I'm 57, 60, whatever the pension age is, it's now sort of my money that's invested and I have control over it. And that essentially is my plan and why I use both of these accounts and why I'll continue to use them going forward. But the bottom line is I will prioritize my stocks and shares ISA with extra money, and I still have a lot of my money going into that each month because I want to live off of that before retirement age. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any comments at all, leave them down below and I'll get back to you. I'm also using a brand new setup with a new camera, new light, new microphone. Soon I'll be having a new laptop. So any feedback at all on the quality, please let me know. And yeah, there'll be a new video soon on buying equipment for a company and what you should do with it. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.